Good morning. It's March 19th. I had some staves that I made into bow blanks. And this one here has a twist, a really bad twist. And it has kind of a hump going on with the grain. Let me show you close up here. You see how it goes up? Okay. And if you look, it only goes halfway through. Let me show you the other side. See the other side's nice? Okay, you can sort of see the shadow of the hump on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this tilled so it flexes really good. It's still really stiff, you know. This bow is 66 inches long, and we're going to make probably a lighter weight bow out of it. I'm going to see if I can get this limb straight by steaming it. And if you look over here, I have my Wagner steamer. Okay, and my steam tube that I made, you can see it on my videos, the steam tube and the that Wagner steamer, and that takes, when you plug that in, that takes about 15 minutes or so before it works. If you buy one of these and hook it up, you're going to plug it in and say, what's the matter with this thing? It ain't working, it's broke. But just leave it and, you know, make sure it's filled with water up to the line only and let it go. And like 15 minutes later, you'll start hearing it working. So that's the plan for today. I'm going to go on the belt sander, take a bunch of strokes off. I want to get this bending pretty good. And, you know, it's not moving. And when I get this bending nice, floor tillered, then I'm going to put it in a steam tube. And then we have that new backset jig that I made yesterday that I showed you with a milder backset. And that's going to be my new fire hardening jig or steaming jig. When this is steamed for an hour and 15 minutes and I take it out, I have, you know how like when I fire harden, I show you, you have to have the fireplace gloves? Well, you need pot holders for this. So after the hour, 15 minutes, and I take this out, I'm going to go over, and I'm going to have the clamps pretty much preset so I can put them on and twist them up and tighten this up. And I'm going to see if I can take the twist out. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. I'm just trying to save this because I think it'll make a good bow. Just so you know, you can look at my videos. I made a hop horn beam that had the same type of lift, okay? And when I tilled it where you could see the side of the hump. All right, you could see the side of the hump. That's how I tilled it. And everybody said, you know, there's people that commented, that's a hinge, that's a hinge. I said, no, it's an optical illusion. It looks like a hinge, but it's not, you know, because I'm using a straight edge, and a straight edge don't lie. So that was Big Hump. I named that bow Big Hump. It's a hunting bow. And to this day, I shoot that, and have taken that Big Hump in the woods hunting with me. So it's that Big Hump is okay. I'm going to try and straighten it out as much as I can. But just so you know, I made a bow. It shoots fine to this day called Big Hump. You can watch the video on it. You can find the video. Fire hardening, hop horn beam, and I think I put the name Big Hump on it. All right, so floor tillering, steaming, and I'll show you. Okay, I have it moving just a little bit here, enough that I'm going to steam it. And the idea is that we made it thinner so that the steam can penetrate and straighten it out. And after we straighten it out, when we fire harden it, it's a little thinner for the fire hardening to penetrate too. Okay, so we're going to steam it next. Just for a reference point, I marked this the top. I put a T here and an H here for the hump. Okay, and what I'm going to do is we're going to put this here because I have a center line. Okay, and what we're going to do is rough set these clamps, and when we put them on, we're going to put them on behind this behind the jig. Okay, and because once we get it bent, set, if it looks good, what we're going to do is we're going to heat it with a heat gun. Okay, but we got to see if we can take the twist out. But we're going to rough set these, leave them a little loose, so we're able to put them on, and we're able to quickly tighten them up. Okay, I may put the one on each side here of the riser, not to split it, put any pressure. Okay, so we're going to have one on each side here. Got those set. Then right here where the fade starts, we're going to have that adjusted for that too. Okay, and we're going to tighten down where the fade is here on this side. And we're going to adjust the fade over here. Just so it's loose. And we're able to try and torque it down. And I'm going to have these two here in the middle. Okay, we're going to put them in the middle here. Going to back it out. Okay, about where the knot is here. Okay. And we're going to put one down further, right here on the end of this. Okay. So now we have the clamps adjusted. Got a middle one here. You don't want to be fussing with this when it's hot. You want to get it close as you can. Okay. Okay. Good enough. The steamer just started steaming. Let me put the microphone next to it so you can hear it. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to put the stave in that I trimmed up. And the stave, when I put it in, I always put the belly side down because it'll be sitting here and the steam will get around it. There are no dowels in this here. It's just laying in a tube. Okay. And then what I do is I have a t-shirt, old t-shirt I use, and I'm going to just stuff the old t-shirt in. And I'm not going to start the timer for the hour and 15 minutes until I see some steam coming out the end. And I'll get back to you. So a while back, I went to Home Depot and I got a regular hook like this here that's threaded and a dowel. And I drilled the center out of the dowel and I filled the JB Weld epoxy, the gray stuff, and I put it around the threads and I screwed it in and wrapped this with white electrical tape and I let it harden. And this here is for when you have arrows that you lost, you scrape along the grass or the leaves. If you're at a 3D tournament and somebody misses an arrow, and with the ticks and everything, you really don't want to be digging in the... I tell you what, I'd rather buy extra arrows and not go in the leaves with all the ticks on Long Island, because I had, Lyme disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, the meat allergy. I had all these things. But if you do decide to go after your arrow and you don't see it right away, you could use one of these, and you see the angle as you drag it along, make it for your height. As you drag it along, this point digs in And if you go every 2 feet, you will catch the arrow and it'll lift up, okay? You know, I never miss, so I don't have to use it. Yeah. But anyway, this tool, the reason I'm showing you this is you could just put it in the end of the tube and help pull out the stave that's cooking in here. It's only in a little bit. You stuff the shirt, you push the back a little more. Just stick this in and gently pull out the stave you got steaming. Okay? So soon, what we're waiting on now is once we start seeing steam come out the end, then we're going to set this time for 1 hour and 15 minutes. While we're waiting for the steam to come out, I figure I'd talk to you about something else. When you get your logs and you remove the bark, and if you see some of my videos, I remove the bark and I'm looking at it and I circle with a magic marker or a pencil all of the knots so I can turn it around and judge where I want to make a bow out of, okay? And some guys will just look at the ends where the checks are, and if you have a short log, you follow the checks a lot of times, just wherever the crack is, but always cut the logs longer. So if they're longer, you don't really have to follow the cracks. You could take the bark off and you could choose where you want to take your logs out of. Choose where you want to use your staves out of. Now this particular bow here, this is another bow that came out of a lot of trees that I had. You see how narrow it is, right? And the reason it was narrow was because the log had a taper like this, and all of this heartwood and all was broken up. In other words, instead of having one stave, 2 staves were made out of it. And it's better off sometimes making a wider stave and only making 1 bow than trying to get 2 out, because you'll have enough meat for a riser handle, okay? So after I cut it, I'm like, I'll have to glue on a handle or whatever. And I decided to make it narrower. And once I make it narrower, you know, look, it works. You know, for a smaller hand, it'll work now that I made it. I made the limbs narrower, and it's hickory. It's going to hold up, and this one here is 68 inches. So, you know, it'll handle, you know, a nice amount of weight because it's longer, even though it's narrower, okay? So that's all I want to tell you. Sometimes look at the logs, and instead of making 2, maybe make 1 so you have enough meat for a grip, okay? You know, while we're waiting for the steam to come out the end, I figured I'd show you that. So this log today, what I'm doing, this bow blank today, what I'm doing is I'm going to get this tillered while I'm waiting for the steam to come out. I'm going to get it floor tillered. And this is pretty thin. You see, I got it pretty thin already. And I got it bending a little bit. And I'm just going to get it bending a little bit more. But this one don't have to be steamed or anything. It's perfectly straight. And when I'm shaping the bows, what I do is I look down from tip to tip after I lay it out, and I'm sanding it. When I lay it out, I'm looking from tip to tip like I'm looking down the barrel of a shotgun. And when you look at it like that, you could see, okay, this side's bowed a little. I got to sand a little here. The tip on this side is facing this way a little bit, so I have a lot of meat. I can sand it, bring in the one edge to make it more in line. So look down the staves, leave it thicker, look down the staves as you're shaping them, and you'll be able to have a nice, fairly straight bow blank when you're done. Okay, let me let you listen to this. Put the speaker next to this. Let me turn it so you can see a little bit more. Okay, listen. Okay, you hear it cooking? Now we're going to set the timer that we hear it cooking out the end there. We're going to set the timer for the 1 hour and 15 minutes. Just to let you know, I got this bow, the second bow blank, bending to where it's acceptable, where I want it. And like I said, somebody with a smaller hand can pick this one out and we'll fire harden it. We'll put it on the jig. We'll fire harden it, shape it, put horn tips on it, tiller it, and somebody will have a nice bow with a smaller hand with this one. It's an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to take that out of the tube, the steaming tube there, and then we're going to put it on the jig. I'll show you taking it out and putting it on the jig. Whenever you see me fire hardening or heating up a stave to conform to a jig, you tell me. I always tell you to be gentle and let the heat work, and you know, as you're using the heat gun, tighten a little at a time. But this here, we're going to put it on, and we're going to kind of put a lot of pressure on, try and straighten it out. Whatever happens, happens. Okay, a little different situation. We're steaming it for an hour and a half. An hour and 15 minutes, rather. We're about at the end of the time here where it's going to flex. It's still hot. You don't have much time to play around with this. Okay, we're going to take a closer look and see how we did. Starting at the center, you can see we got it flush, pretty flush. And we're going along all the way down, and we got it to conform to the jig. Now, there's going to be two other times that we'll be able to straighten this out. And after this cools, we're going to leave it like this, and may reposition it a little bit on this jig. And we're going to use a heat gun. And when we use the heat gun, we're going to go back and forth on the heat gun and just make sure it's nice and snug. And over here is the hump. Here's big hump. And that's the side where the hump is. And it looks pretty good, right? We got it fairly straight. You know, you can see it's a little different here. We got it fairly straight. And I'm happy with this. We're going to have a nice shootable bow. Right, now that I steamed it, I kind of put it on quick, got it flat. I'm loosening up the clamps again. And what we're going to do is align the bow a little better. See, I'm able to move it now. I have a center mark here. I'm moving it to the center mark. And what I'm going to start doing is, since you see it took pretty well, but you got some spring back, I got it centered now. And I'm going to center everything. I'll show you when I'm done, but I'm going to re-put the clamps on, and we're going to use a heat gun. And the heat gun will set the wood a little better right on the clamp and make it more aligned. Okay, I removed the clamps. I aligned this bow center to center. The sides are even. I made sure the tips are in the center. And I'm going to use the heat gun. And now that I was aggressive when I steamed it. We put it on and we crank it down because it's been steaming for an hour and a half. And it's cool now, whatever it is, it is. And now what we're going to do is we're going to be gentle again. We're going to heat treat this back and forth from the center of the riser out, and we're going to do a quarter at a time. This quarter, and the outer ends. But for 8 minutes, we're going to go back and forth here. And as I'm heating this up, I'm going to check the clamps. I'm going to go down and snug them up as I'm going. So it's gentle. We're going to and get it to conform a little more to the jig. Now this one here, this bow here, once I get done with this, I'm going to let it cool and it's going in the house. And this will be somebody's bow to shape and fire harden and tiller and put horn tips on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just going to heat it up and I'll show you. Notice I have the clamps on that side, so I don't have to go around the clamps. I'm going to go on the belly of the bow, the part of the bow that faces your belly, going up and down and into the riser. I'm going to do this quarter right here, the inner quarter, for 8 minutes. And as I'm going, you see a little space? Now's when you're gentle. You heat it up, and once it's nice and hot, you can turn it a little bit. You don't want to crack nothing, okay? But once we got that thing steaming for that hour and 15, 20 minutes, whatever it wound up being, we kind of quickly do it and gorilla it down and get it to conform, and you see it really worked. This thing was, you have no idea how twisted it was. I don't think the camera did it justice. But once we steamed it and got it here, it's beautiful. We got a beautiful stave, and Hickory's good like that. So I'm going to heat it up and I'll show you when I'm done. And as you're using the heat gun, remember, this isn't like steaming. Now you want to be gentle. You want the wood to get warm and pliable, and it's drying out the wood. And as you're going along with the heat gun, it's not like when you steam it, okay? Now you're letting the wood warm up and get pliable, and you're gently, look, see how it turns a little bit at a time? It's allowing you to turn these a little at a time. So as you're going back and forth for the 8 minutes, every couple of minutes, just gently see if it goes, okay? You saw it go a little bit. And it's conforming to the jig. And now the 8 minutes are up for here, and I'm going to do the outer limb on this one. The bow cooled down, and I removed the clamps, and I just want to show you, a little spring back, but once we fire harden it, it will conform to this back set jig. But just check it out. You can see the back set. We got a little back set in already. You can see, if you look at it this side, you're going to have that little lift. Okay, that hump will show you a little lift. But if you look over here, it's fine, okay? And once we fire harden it and tiller it, it's going to be a great bow. Okay, beautiful. Okay, this bow was steamed, fitted to the back set jig, cooled. Then I was able to, you press for time when it's steamed. You want to clamp it tight, fast. And then what I did was, after it cooled, I removed the clamps, loosened the clamps, realigned the bow, retightened everything, and started to heat treat it. And as I heat treated it, I was able to gently, now when you heat treat it, you gently turn the clamps to get it to conform to the jig. And that heat treating is important for two reasons. Before you fire harden, it removes moisture, and it gets the bow to conform to the jig a little bit. And don't get me wrong, when I take these clamps off, you're going to have some backset. So you have three chances. I had three chances to align this. One by steaming, took out the twist. The second chance now is with this aligned perfectly. The limbs, the ends are aligned perfect. Everything's perfect. And I used the heat gun. And then when the time comes for me to fire harden this, I'm not going to do this for a couple of days, so I'm going to remove this bow blank from the clamp, from the jig. And at some point when I fire harden, it's going to go back on here. And when it goes back on here, I'm going to realign it. And as it's being fire hardened, right, these clamps will be reversed, so they're not hanging in the fire. They'll be reversed. As I'm fire hardening it, I will gently turn them tighter and tighter, and it'll snug it up, and it'll conform again to the jig. So there's three chances to straighten it out. And usually with hickory, when you're done fire hardening, you'll have a permanent back set. It'll take the shape of the jig. This is my new milder jig, and according to the rough measurements I took, at this 66 inches, it's got about an inch and a half of back set it'll have when it's done. Okay, so that's the end of straightening out this twisted log. And I just wanted to mention that I have a friend that I started teaching Introduction to Traditional Archery, and I met a nice guy, Bobby, there. And Bobby is going to come over, and he's going to make his first self bow. I roughed it out for him. He's going to do a lot of sanding, a little trimming. He's going to put we're going to fire harden. He's going to put the buffalo horn tips on and tiller it, and he's going to have a nice bow, self bow. He's going to make his first self bow. So this was just a rough trim up for him, and he's going to come over and start working today. But I wanted to mention, all those staves I got were from my friend Chris Bartic, from his property. And I looked at the date. I just saw the date on one of the ends I lopped off, 7/23. So these weren't taken this year like all the other bows I made. These were from, July 23. Okay, this is 25. We're coming up into July 25. So these are, over a year aged that he had I believe he had in his shed hanging on the rafters, and he brought them down for me to use. And I'm grateful. He's a good friend. He's an outdoorsman. He's a woodsman. We have a lot of things in common. He can't stay still either, and he loves the outdoors. So Chris made two nice bows, and I see more bows in his future that he's going to make with me. So I just wanted to thank him again for these load of staves that I finally got to shape up and make nice bow blanks out of them. And you're going to make a lot of people happy, because a lot of people are going to take lessons on making bows, and they're going to have nice self bows to shoot because of you. So thank you. That's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Every day that you wake up is a good day. Make the best out of it. Get out, shoot, cut down a tree, shape it, make a bow. Okay, watch my videos, make a bow. There's nothing more pleasurable, if you're into archery, than making a bow out of a tree and being able to shoot arrows out of it when you're done. It's just like, it's amazing. It's therapy. It's unbelievable. So thanks for watching. Have a good day.